Everyone overcomplicates this dish, but this is how you make a bolognese. Once you learn how to make this, you can make the best lasagna in the world, and you can also make a good pasta. One of the first steps is a mirepoix. A mirepoix is a random French word for basically cutting up celery, onion, and carrots into small little dices. That's it. We got 5 carrots, 3 yellow onions, and a stalk of celery. Peel your carrots. Whenever you're making a dish and you have to cut up a bunch of different veggies, you want to cut them all the same size so they cook at the same time. One of them isn't crunchy and the other one tastes like mush. You know, it's pretty common sense. Common sense ain't that common. Some of these pieces look a little large, but we're basically gonna cook this down so much that these are all gonna disintegrate and you won't even be able to tell them. Tell them? That's not English, but you get what I mean. I've worked at like 6 different Italian restaurants, and people make a bolognese different in different parts of Italy and different restaurants. But out of all the different ways, I think that this is the best way to make it. If you know a way that you can chop onions and not cry, you just let me know, because I've tried maybe 50 different ways and I haven't found a way. You're gonna have a little bit more onion than everything else, but onion doesn't really get too overpowering. It kind of just enhances the flavors of everything else. You're gonna grab a decently big pot, and then you're gonna go in with a stick of butter. A lot of people add in olive oil, but I think butter is just a richer flavor, and we're not cooking this on super high heat, so it's not gonna burn the butter. Decent pinch of salt, and you're basically just gonna cook this down on medium heat for about 15 minutes until the onions get translucent and all the veggies get soft. You can also just put a lid on top of it to speed up the process, but make sure you check on it and stir it often. Now, for our meat, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on this. I got 4 pounds of 80-20 ground beef. 80-20 ground beef means that the fat content is 20%. And then I'm using 2 pounds of chuck and brisket ground beef, 1 pound of ground bison, and another pound of ground beef. I've worked in restaurants where they add pork, add chicken, add beef, do kind of all of it. Essentially, the more different types of meat you get a deeper flavor. But I've found that beef usually works the best, and I wouldn't use something that's super lean, so like a 95-5. I wouldn't use that. I would generally go for like an 80-20. If you wanted a little bit tastier, you could even use 70-30. You can obviously use 1/3 ground beef, 1/3 ground pork, 1/3 ground chicken. It's really not important. As long as you don't use super lean meat, you're okay. If you're not too good at math, this is 8 pounds of meat. Our onions are translucent and everything is kind of softened up. I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit here. Usually, whenever you're doing anything with meat, you wanna get a really good sear on it because it just brings out a deeper flavor. Now, I've made this with searing the meat and I've made it without searing the meat, and it's the exact same flavor. So we're not gonna sear our meat. Ideally, you'd want a bigger pot for 8 pounds of meat. You're just gonna break this down and cook it again on medium heat for about 15 minutes. I'm gonna add in San Marzano tomatoes, which are like whole peeled tomatoes. Some parts of Italy will swear to you that they never use tomatoes in a bolognese. Some people do. I do. You can just break these apart with your hand. And then you're gonna go in with about 1 liter of stock. You can use chicken, beef, vegetable. I'm just using beef stock right now. A Parmesan rind, when you have a block of Parmesan and you have this end part, it's not wax, it's a part of the cheese. Always save these in your fridge, and if you're ever making something like this, you just throw these in and it's gonna enhance the flavor. At this point, you can also add garlic. You don't have to worry about searing it because it's gonna all disintegrate. I have garlic confit, that's about 15 cloves of garlic. You can just use regular garlic though, you don't have to do this. And we just added a bunch of stuff to it, so we're obviously gonna hit it with another pinch of salt. Some people add milk. I really don't taste the difference and again, I've tried these recipes like 50 different times. So I've added milk before, I don't really notice a difference, so we're not adding milk. And now what you're gonna do on low medium heat, you're basically gonna cook this down for like 3 to 4 hours. Make sure that you're always stirring this. If you burn it, it's gonna ruin the whole thing. So make sure every 5-10 minutes, you're going by, grabbing your spatula and doing these figure-8 shapes and making sure you don't burn it. Sometimes you end up burning stuff. If you notice that you've burnt it, don't mix it. Just take it and dump it into another pot so that burnt flavor doesn't get infused in the whole thing. It's been 4 hours. There's obviously gonna be some oil on top, but the first thing you're gonna do is take out the 2 Parmesan rinds and this one. I'm just gonna pour it in here so you see the consistency. I always add a ton of salt, and you guys think it's crazy, But you have to understand that this is 8 pounds of meat, and then we probably added another 4 or 5 pounds of stuff. Whenever you're making a big batch of something, it's important not to salt it a bunch at the beginning, because as it reduces, it's gonna get saltier. So when you get towards the end, now you taste it, and I already know this is gonna need salt. Oh, wait for it to cool down a little bit. But it definitely needs more salt. So now I'm gonna put it back in the pot and add salt. Now what you can do with this is make an awesome pasta. So you just boil some pasta, throw this in a different pot, add a knob of butter, mix it all together, little Parmesan on top, and that's your pasta. Or you can put this in the fridge, let it cool down, and use it as a base for a lasagna. This was my first long format video, so they're gonna get better as we go along. But if you like more detailed videos, you subscribe so you can see all my videos, press like, and then next time I'll show you guys how to make fresh pasta and how to make lasagna. Have a good day, everybody.